When I opened my yearbook, my cousin paid for a page mocking my assault pics with "Look at her now." My aunt said I deserved it for flaunting my scholarship, so I skipped graduation, vanished, and got into the one school they all got rejected from. I was sitting in the back corner of the library at the community college I used as a safe place, just trying to breathe, when the email notification hit my phone. It was from the one school nobody in my family ever thought I could get into, the one they said was for real people with real futures, not for someone like me. I hadn't even opened it yet. My hands were shaking too much. And all I could think about was that page, that disgusting yearbook page, the page my cousin had paid money to sponsor, like it was some cute senior tribute. I still remember flipping to it the moment someone whispered, "Oh my God, look at page 142. It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. There it was, a full page spread plastered with doctored photos of me crying. Pictures pulled from that horrible night, twisted and filtered until I barely looked human. Under it, the words, "Here's to the girl who thought she was better than us, look at her now." My cousin's name printed at the bottom like they were proud of it. When I brought it to the office, shaking, barely breathing, my principal literally laughed. "Teenagers can be dramatic," he said. "You shouldn't take yourself so seriously." My aunt said I brought it on myself for bragging about that little scholarship. A joke, they all called it. A lesson, some hinted. A warning, I realized later. I skipped graduation. I couldn't walk across a stage where they had all conspired to humiliate me. While everyone else was getting flowers and hugs, I was packing a backpack in silence and booking a cheap motel room off the interstate. I stared at the ceiling all night and decided I wasn't going back. Not to town, not to them, not to anyone who looked me in the eye and smiled while knowing exactly what they did. I cut off every relative, blocked numbers, deleted socials, vanished. But now, sitting there in that quiet library, staring at the unopened acceptance letter on my screen, something inside me shifted. Not hope, not yet, something colder, sharper. Because if this email said what I thought it might, if I actually got in, then I had a path back. Not to reconcile, not to forgive, to settle something, to expose everything they buried. And the best part, they had no idea what was coming. I finally clicked the email, and when I saw the first words, my breath caught in my throat, because it meant one thing: everything they did to break me was about to become the reason I destroyed them. I grew up in a place people only remember because they're trying to forget it. A small, suffocating town outside Scranton, Pennsylvania, where everyone's related, everyone's nosy, and everyone thinks they know who you're supposed to be before you even figure out what you want. My family wasn't poor, but they acted like they were fighting for survival every day. They cared about reputation more than anything. Every holiday, every birthday, every stupid cookout turned into some competition about whose kid was doing what, who was getting ahead, who was failing. And somehow, even though I kept to myself, even though I never bragged about anything, they labeled me the one who thought she was better. It started when I got serious about school. Not because I was naturally gifted or anything. I just needed something that wasn't them. While everyone else was drinking in parking lots and starting drama, I spent late nights at the public library, doing extra scholarship essays, preparing for SAT retakes, meeting with counselors who swore I had a real shot at leaving. My cousin Bri, the one who made that yearbook page, used to be close with me when we were little. But by high school, she turned into the type of person who needed attention like air. She hung with the kids who thought bullying was bonding. When I started racking up academic awards, she'd make little comments like, "Must be nice being the teacher's pet," or "You know nobody likes you, right?" I brushed it off. Everyone said she was just jealous. But jealousy doesn't explain everything that came later. My aunt always had this weird thing about me too. She'd smile at me like the expression hurt her face. If I mentioned anything good happening, even small things, she'd tilt her head and say, "Don't get too full of yourself. Pride ruins girls faster than anything." She said the same thing after my scholarship award ceremony. Everyone else clapped. She whispered it right in my ear. And then there was the assault. I still can't talk about the details without feeling like my lungs collapse, but the part that matters here is what came after. When it happened, the school brushed it under the rug. My family didn't believe me. Or worse, they believed me but decided it was messy and embarrassing. They said things like, Are you sure you didn't misread the situation? And you should be careful about the messages you send. It broke something in me, not just because of the trauma, but because I realized I had no one. That was the moment I planned out my escape. I worked harder, pushed further, stayed late in empty classrooms filling out applications while everyone else coasted. When I got that competitive scholarship from a foundation in Philadelphia, I thought stupidly that maybe someone would be proud. Instead, I got side eyes and comments like, "Don't go forgetting where you came from." Bri laughed when she heard. "Relax," she said. "It's not like you got into an Ivy." I never told her where else I applied, or who quietly encouraged me, or that one recommendation letter in my packet wasn't from a teacher, it was from someone she hated. Someone none of them expected. And that scholarship, it was just one part of my plan. The acceptance I received in that library, that was the piece that would change everything. I didn't know it then, but the same people who dismissed me, mocked me, humiliated me, they were already tangled in a secret that linked directly to the school I'd been admitted to. A secret I wouldn't uncover until everything in my life had already exploded. The acceptance letter was still open on my phone when I walked out of the library and sat on the cold concrete steps, trying to steady myself. I kept rereading the same sentence over and over. "We are pleased to offer you admission to the University of Pennsylvania." UPenn. The one school nobody in my family ever said out loud because it was so far beyond what anyone in our bloodline had ever touched. Back home, getting into the local state college was considered impressive. Anything beyond that, you were trying to outgrow your roots, which was apparently a crime. My chest was tight, but it wasn't fear. It felt more like an engine starting after years of grinding. But the more I thought about it, the more memories surfaced. Not just the humiliation of the yearbook page, not just the assault and the dismissal that followed, but all the little ways people around me had been trying to break me for years. There was one moment that stood out, the day my counselor, Miss Halpern, pulled me aside after school. She'd closed her office door and said in a low voice, "Listen, I need to warn you about something." She told me she'd overheard a group of teachers and parents in the staff lounge talking about me. She said one of them, a parent, had said something like, "She's not going to get far. Someone like her never does." I didn't understand it then. I just assumed it was the usual small-town bitterness. But now, looking back, it felt heavier, more specific. Escalation came slowly and then all at once. About 2 weeks after the yearbook incident, when I'd already gone no contact with my family, one of Bry's friends sent me a message on a burner account. No name, no profile picture, just a screenshot. It was a group chat. Their group chat. The same people who laughed behind my back. The same people who circulated the edited photos of me crying after the assault. But this time, the messages weren't about the yearbook page. They were talking about my application results, about how they knew someone on a committee, about how they were making sure she doesn't get the golden ticket. One line burned into me. "Her aunt said she'll never leave this town. We're just helping fate along." My hands went numb. I didn't know if it was real or just another twisted attempt to mess with me. But the phrasing, the smug confidence, matched too perfectly with the way my aunt talked. Around that time, weird things started happening. Emails I never wrote appeared in my sent folder. Requests to withdraw from scholarship consideration. Suspicious login attempts on my Common App account. And when I tried to reset passwords, the recovery emails wouldn't go through. Somebody had been sabotaging me. I brought the screenshots and emails to the school office. They brushed me off again. "You teenagers play so many games," they said. "This is probably just a prank." A prank. Same word they used for the yearbook page. Same word they used when I reported the photos. Same word they used when I said I needed help. Every adult in that building acted like cruelty was normal, like humiliation was entertainment. So when the acceptance letter came, despite everything they tried to ruin, it wasn't just a victory. It was proof. Proof that someone outside that rotten town believed in me. Proof that someone inside that admissions committee read past the noise. Proof that their sabotage failed. But there was something else. Something tucked in the bottom of the acceptance packet that didn't make sense at the time. A small, handwritten note from one of the admissions officers. "I'm glad we caught the discrepancy before final review. You deserve this." Caught what discrepancy? I hadn't asked any questions yet. I should have. Because the truth behind that discrepancy, the truth behind who caused it, was going to blow open everything I thought I knew about my family. I didn't understand the note at first. I read it over and over that night in my tiny rented room, the one with the peeling paint and the window that wouldn't lock, until the words blurred. I'm glad we caught the discrepancy before final review. You deserve this. What discrepancy? Nothing on my application had changed. At least nothing I changed. 2 days later, I found out. It started when I called the admissions office. I wasn't trying to pry, I just needed clarity. The woman who answered had this warm but cautious tone, like she was trying to decide how much she was allowed to tell me. When I mentioned the note, she paused. Then she said, I can transfer you to the officer who reviewed your file. One moment. My heart thudded in my ears. The line clicked and a man introduced himself, Mr. Darrow. His voice was calm, a little tired, like someone who had been staring at applications for months straight. He didn't dance around it. Your application was flagged on our end, he said, because we received a second packet under your name. My stomach dropped. A second packet? I didn't send one. I know, he said. We compared the handwriting, the formatting, the email metadata. They didn't match your original submission. My mouth went dry. What did it say? He exhaled, like even repeating it felt gross. It included character concerns. A note implying you fabricated trauma for attention. It claimed you exaggerated your academic achievements, and he stopped, then picked carefully, and it stated that your behavior with boys made you an unreliable representative for scholarship consideration. I felt the world tilt. Oh my God. And, he added quietly, the name listed as your emergency contact was your aunt. My chest caved in, my aunt. She sent it, or she cosigned it, or she fed information to whoever did. I felt like I was sinking into the floor. Mr. Darrow kept talking, gently, like he knew he was walking me through a minefield. We almost removed your file entirely, but something about the packet felt off, so we reached out to the teacher listed as your recommender to verify. My teacher, my voice cracked. Yes, the one who wrote the letter about your resilience. Miss Halpern, my heart punched upward. Miss Halpern wrote a letter. Of course, he said. She submitted it the day before your deadline. I had never asked her for a letter, I didn't even know she offered, and she definitely didn't tell me. He continued, when she saw the second packet, she told us immediately that it wasn't you. She said, and I quote, if she ever lies, it's only to protect herself. Her endorsement prevented your removal. I swallowed hard. My aunt tried to destroy my future. My counselor secretly protected me. And the school, the one that laughed at my assault, ignored the yearbook humiliation, brushed off every cry for help, had members inside it playing both sides. But the worst part was still echoing in my head. My aunt had sent a letter to an Ivy League admissions office accusing me of fabricating my assault and calling me a problem. Family wasn't supposed to do that. Not even bad families. I felt something in me change right then. Something sharp, something final. But the betrayal wasn't done. Because that night, when I finally opened my old high school email account, the one I hadn't touched since graduation weekend, I found something that made everything with my aunt look like a warm-up. A forwarded message, sent months earlier, from my principal to my cousin Bri, and the subject line made my whole body go cold. Ray, the photos used these instead. It wasn't just Bri, it wasn't just my aunt. The adults, the ones who were supposed to protect me, were helping them. And the files attached, they were images from the school's private incident report. Photos taken without my consent, meant only for formal documentation. They had weaponized them. And they'd done it together. I don't remember crawling into bed that night. I just remember staring at my phone long after the screen went dark, my mind replaying the same 3 facts on a loop. My aunt tried to sabotage my Ivy League application. My cousin used photos from a private incident report. My principal helped her get them. It wasn't teenage cruelty. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't petty family drama. It was a coordinated effort to break me. And somehow, knowing that, really knowing it, didn't make me cry. It didn't even make me panic. It made something inside me click into place. Like a switch I didn't know existed finally flipped. If they wanted to ruin me, they should have made sure I stayed powerless. But I wasn't powerless anymore. I had UPenn. I had receipts. I had adults in their own institutions who would believe me, not because they cared about me, but because they cared about liability. And the best part? I still had access to my old school portal. No one had bothered to remove graduating seniors yet, so I logged in. First thing I checked was my student record. It was bare, cleaner than it should have been. Too clean. That alone told me they'd scrubbed something. Probably the report from the night of the assault. Maybe the photo documentation too, but they didn't delete the metadata. A rookie mistake. Every file uploaded to the system leaves a trace: who uploaded it, when, and under which permissions. And the more I dug, the more I realized something. My principal had accessed the private report 3 separate times in the week before the yearbook went to print. And someone under the username bprice, Brianna's last name was Price, accessed the media attachments folder 3 days later from an external IP. I took screenshots of everything: dates, times, permissions, even the IP logs. Then I checked the email archive. Buried deep in the sent folder was something that made my stomach twist. A thread between the principal and my aunt about managing the fallout from the incident. My aunt had replied, "We just need her to learn humility. She's too full of herself. You know how girls like her get when no one checks them? Girls like her, they didn't see me as a person, just a problem to be managed." That's when the plan started forming, slow at first, then sharper, clearer, more precise. I wasn't going to confront them. I wasn't going to yell in anyone's face. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of thinking we were still playing by small-town rules. I was going to do something they'd never expect. I was going to use their own systems against them. UPenn had an entire student-run legal aid clinic known for taking on cases of institutional misconduct. I'd read about it in forums. They loved cases involving public schools mishandling harassment, especially when it involved a paper trail. I drafted an email. I attached screenshots of every log, every forwarded photo, every disgusting message. Before I hit send, I added one final line. I don't want money. I want accountability. And I want every adult who covered this up removed from the positions they abused. Then I sent it. But I didn't stop there. I contacted the Scholarship Foundation in Philadelphia and told them I needed to report falsified documents submitted on my behalf. I emailed the district superintendent, attaching only the bare minimum, just enough to alert them without revealing the full scope of what I had. I wrote to the Department of Education's Civil Rights Office. I filed a digital report with the state's mandated reporter hotline. I didn't know which domino would hit first, but I knew one thing: once the first fell, the rest would follow. The whole town thought I was gone, that I ran off to hide, that I was weak. They had no idea that while they laughed, while they dismissed me, while they tried to bury me, I was learning exactly how to destroy every last one of them. And just when I thought I had uncovered everything, I received a response from the UPenn Legal Clinic. It started with, "We need to speak immediately. There's something you should know about your aunt." Something I wasn't prepared for. The email from the UPenn Legal Clinic came at 6:14 a.m., right as the sun was starting to bleed into my room. I hadn't slept. I'd spent most of the night refreshing my inbox like something urgent was going to pop up. So when it finally did, with the subject line, "Important, regarding your case and family connection," I opened it so fast I almost dropped my phone. The message was short, too short. "We need to speak immediately. There's something you should know about your aunt." I stared at it for a solid minute before forcing myself to dial the number they included. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from that buzzing sense you get when you know something big is coming, but you can't see the shape of it yet. A woman answered after one ring. "This is Kara from the clinic. Before we discuss your documents, I need to confirm something. It's going to sound strange." "Okay," I said. She hesitated like she was giving me one last chance to hang up. "Is your aunt," she said slowly, "Linda Price?" I felt my stomach clench. "Yes." Silence. Then Kara blew out a long breath. "All right," she said. "Then this is going to hit hard." I braced myself. "Your aunt used to work for us." My brain didn't process the sentence at first. "Work for who?" "The clinic," she said. "More specifically, the ethics committee tied to our outreach and reporting division. She resigned about 3 years ago, right before a major inquiry." I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't open my mouth. "She was responsible for reviewing community complaints about school districts across Northeast Pennsylvania," Kara continued. "Her job was to identify misconduct especially cases involving harassment, discrimination, or retaliation. Basically, she was supposed to protect students. My mouth finally worked. I don't understand. Kara's voice softened. We didn't either at first, but when your email came in, your name looked familiar. We checked old records. And we found something that, honestly, we're still trying to wrap our heads around. My throat tightened. What did you find? Another pause. Then, your aunt personally intercepted a complaint filed on your behalf 2 years ago. Everything inside me went still. What complaint? A teacher in your school, we don't have their name, it was redacted, submitted a formal alert about a situation involving you. A safety risk. They attached evidence. They requested district intervention. I felt cold all over. Someone tried to report what happened to me. Yes, she said, and it was sent directly to the ethics committee because of the severity. Your aunt was the assigned reviewer. My pulse hammered in my ears. What did she do with it? I whispered. Kara didn't sugarcoat anything. She closed it, marked it miscommunication. No follow-up, no escalation. She didn't even forward it to the district superintendent. My breath caught. Everything in my body felt like sinking stone. She knew, I said. She knew what happened. She knew and she buried it. She didn't just bury it, Kara said. She erased the complaint entirely from the active system. We only found it in an archived backup. A rush of heat shot up my neck. My hands curled into fists. My aunt didn't just sabotage my application. She didn't just smear me. She didn't just join Bry and the principal in humiliating me. She had been involved since the very beginning, before the assault, before the yearbook, before any of it surfaced. She saw a teacher trying to protect me, and she shut it down. On purpose. I couldn't breathe. Because if that was true, if she was willing to bury a safety report about her own niece, then the reason behind all of this, the real reason, wasn't petty jealousy. It was something darker, colder, calculated. And when Kara said the next sentence, it confirmed everything I feared. Your aunt has a history with your principal, she said quietly. A professional one, a personal one, and a financial one. I think you need to prepare yourself. My voice barely came out. For what? For the real reason, she said. For why they all targeted you. The line went silent, and I knew whatever came next was going to change everything. I don't know what I expected the reason to be. Maybe some twisted jealousy over my scholarship. Maybe the town's obsession with keeping girls humble. Maybe my aunt just hated me because I reminded her of my mom. I could have handled any of that. But the truth, the real reason, wasn't some emotional grudge. It was business. It was calculated. It was cold down to the bone. Kara called me back that same afternoon. Her voice was steady, but I could hear something underneath, the sound people get when they're about to say something ugly. We connected the dots, she said. You need to sit down. I was already sitting, but I felt like I might fall through the chair. Your aunt and your principal weren't just acquaintances, she said. They were part of a little network, a quiet agreement between the school district and the ethics committee. It wasn't official. It was the kind of thing people don't write down. My stomach twisted. What agreement? To keep certain cases off the books, she said. Especially cases that would make the district look negligent. Or expensive. A cold wave rolled over me. And my case, I whispered. Your case, she said, was exactly the kind they made disappear. I didn't breathe. Kara continued. Your aunt was being paid discreetly to filter and shut down sensitive complaints before they reached the state level. And your principal made sure those complaints were routed to her instead of to the superintendent. I felt sick. How long? At least 4 years, she said. Possibly longer. My skin crawled. And me, I forced out. Why me? Why go after me? Why the yearbook page? Why the sabotage? Why the humiliation? Kara hesitated for the first time. Then she said something so vile I actually felt my body recoil. Your report, she said softly, would have exposed the school. Not just the assault, not just the mishandling, but a chain of failures, staff negligence, peer retaliation, uneven discipline records, and a history of unaddressed harassment complaints. She paused. If your case had escalated, she continued, it would have triggered a full district audit. My voice cracked into a whisper. Okay, but what does that have to do with them targeting me personally? Kara exhaled like she hated the words she was about to say. Because your aunt wasn't just helping the district, she said. She was getting a cut of every complaint she successfully buried. And your principal had strong incentive to make sure nothing messy reached the state. I closed my eyes, my head buzzed, but I made myself ask the final question. So what was I to them? There was a long, heavy silence. Then, a liability, Kara said, a threat to their side arrangement. Someone they needed to discredit before you could speak. My chest tightened. And Bri, my cousin, she wasn't part of the arrangement, Kara said carefully. But she benefited from it. Your aunt fed her information. The principal gave her access. The humiliation, the yearbook page, that wasn't an accident. It was intentional. If they destroyed your credibility socially, you'd never be taken seriously legally. My throat burned. They tried to bury you, Kara said, her voice grim. Because if your assault case ever saw daylight, it wouldn't just threaten the school, it would blow apart the system your aunt and principal built together. A system that made them money. No remorse, no guilt, no complicated emotional motive. It wasn't about me as a person. It was about protecting their hidden pipeline of buried complaints. I wasn't a niece. I wasn't a student. I wasn't family. I was a risk, an obstacle, a danger to their side profit machine. A girl they needed to silence and humiliate so thoroughly that no one would ever believe a word she said. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Something inside me just hardened. Settled. If they wanted a threat, they had no idea what I was about to become. When Kara finished explaining everything, I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel broken. I didn't even feel angry anymore. What I felt was focused. Sharp. Like the version of me they tried to crush had finally stood up. They tried to make me unbelievable, so I decided to make myself undeniable. And once I had the truth, the full truth, revenge wasn't rage anymore. It was strategy. The first domino fell 2 weeks later. UPenn's legal clinic took my case on full representation. They didn't waste time. They drafted formal requests for records. They pulled archived emails. They subpoenaed everything tied to my incident report, the original, the doctored files, the access logs, even the yearbook committee communications. The district got the notice first, then the superintendent, then the school board. Within a week, everyone in that building was scrambling. Because once the state realized a mandated reporter, my aunt had intentionally buried a safety complaint involving a minor, they opened an independent investigation. And when they got into the archives and found more buried cases, the whole damn thing cracked open. Teachers who'd been ignored for years came forward. Parents who'd been dismissed spoke up. Old complaints, sealed for no reason, started resurfacing. And all of it pointed back to the same two people, my aunt, my principal. The next domino was the media, not because I called them. Because someone on the school board leaked the investigation to a reporter tired of writing fluff pieces. The story hit the local paper first. Then regional outlets picked it up. Then a major Philly publication ran it with the headline, PA District Under Fire, 4 Buried Harassment Cases, Ethics Officer and Principal NAMED. They didn't print my name. I was still a minor when everything started. But people in my hometown could put 2 and 2 together. Suddenly, everyone who called me dramatic fell silent. Suddenly, the joke yearbook page wasn't funny. Suddenly, the adults who said I misread the situation were pretending they always believed me. Good. Let them choke on the truth. My aunt was the first to fall. She was terminated from her position on the ethics committee, banned from serving in any related field, and formally reported for misconduct. The state opened a criminal review into whether she intentionally suppressed mandated reports for financial gain. She tried to call me once. I didn't answer. Bri got dragged next. Not legally, she was a minor when she did most of it, but publicly. Her scholarship, the one she bragged about stealing from someone who didn't deserve it, was revoked for conduct violations. Her yearbook stunt became Exhibit C in the investigation. Last I heard, she took her social media private because every comment on every post was people asking how she could do that to her own cousin. The principal held out the longest. He lawyered up. He denied everything. Then investigators found the forwarded photos in his deleted email archive, the same ones he claimed he never touched. He was terminated immediately, then charged for breaching confidentiality in a student safety case. I watched the news clip of him being led out of the school in handcuffs. I didn't smile, but I didn't look away either. A month later, I moved to Philadelphia for my UPenn orientation. I unpacked my little dorm room slowly, quietly, taking in every detail, the clean white walls, the wide window, the space that finally felt like mine. And for the first time in years, I breathed without feeling like someone was watching. Before bed, I opened my acceptance letter again, not because I doubted it, but because I wanted to remind myself of what survived. What I survived. They wanted to bury me. Instead, they buried themselves. Right before I turned off the light, I caught my reflection in the window, tired, older, but standing. I looked at that girl they tried to erase and said out loud, with no one to hear it but me. Look at me now. The kicker, their yearbook page aged like milk. Mine turned into evidence.